First of all, I'd like to thank the Pullman Foundation for inviting me to this wonderful event. I contacted the Pullman Foundation probably about a year and a half ago, and I felt the need to share with them what this gift has meant to me and what it has done. So I'm going to take you in the next 15 or 20 minutes through my journey of how I got here, and I'm going to leave with you 7 key points that I believe were the keys to my success. Just to share with you a little bit about my background, I am a native Chicagoan. I grew up in Chicago's statewide housing projects. Most of the Pullman Foundation students come from disadvantaged backgrounds, as you saw from the city, or from the movie. I'm no different. I grew up in the projects. I went to Wendell Phillips High School, which is one of Chicago's largest black high schools in Chicago and one of the most historic high schools in Chicago. Duke Ellington actually went to Wendell Phillips High School. But Wendell Phillips was challenged when I was there. Wendell Phillips ranked as the worst high school in Chicago in 1976 when I graduated. But an interesting thing happened to me in around 1974-75. I was selected for a program to see if they could take kids specifically from Wendell Phillips High School and get them into a Big Ten school. It's interesting because no student at that time had ever qualified to get into a Big Ten school. So what you're looking at here is a science experiment that went terribly right. so what happened is someone from the University of Illinois came to Phillips and they said, pick 5 students, students who have good GPAs, and let's see if we can take them to the next level. Well, I hated school. Believe it or not, when I was a kid. There were low expectations of me. Nobody expected, us to do really anything. And at the beginning of my freshman year, people were talking to me about getting a job in McDonald's, which, by the way, I did. And that didn't work out too well, so, I decided to go into engineering after that. So it was unbelievably amazing. So what happened is I got into this program, and keep in mind, you're looking at somebody who hated school. I didn't like it. I didn't like the way it was taught. I didn't get anything that was going on, and it didn't help that my brother happened to be a genius. He graduated from high school when he was 15, and he went on to the Air Force, became an Air Force pilot, and all of that. I hated school. So when I got into this program, I had a teacher, and I want you to listen to me because I am the product of good teachers. And I saw some kids tonight who said that they were in the education field. Good for you, because teachers make all the difference in the world. This teacher took me aside and she said, why are you wasting your life? And she started to talk to me about, different careers and things that I knew nothing about. This teacher decided to tutor me on her own. When I got into high school, they told me that I was on a 4th grade reading level and that my math scores were on a 3rd grade reading level, and that they considered me educationally, mentally handicapped. Now, my mother is here tonight, Jeanette King. Jeanette, raise your hand. Jeanette told them, there is no way. She said, she's just lazy. She's not, mentally handicapped. So her and this teacher got together. Mom gave the teacher money, and the teacher took her own money, bought me books. The next thing you know, I was the #1 student in my freshman class. I graduated from Wendell Phillips with a 4.0 GPA. And there were 3 of us that had a 4.0 GPA, and they had to rank us according to activity, not according to our GPA, because we all had 4.0 GPAs. Well, I took the ACT test, and a funny thing happened. I got a perfect score on the English, the kid who did not like school. I had a perfect score on the English, and I had a near perfect score on the math. So they kept tutoring me. They kept sending me to the University of Illinois, and I kept getting tutored. The next thing I know, I got this thingy in the mail from the University of Wisconsin saying, hey, you've been accepted. So I took it up to the school because I had no idea where Wisconsin was. I was in Chicago, in the ghetto in Chicago. I had no idea. And so I took this and I said, yeah, you know what, I got another one of these things in the mail. And it says I got into a Big Ten school, something, University of Wisconsin, something, something. And they said, whoa, you got into the University of Wisconsin. So the next thing you know, the principal is like, boys and girls, Valarie has just got into the University of Wisconsin. So I started at the University of Wisconsin and I didn't know what I wanted to major in. And I heard this talk from a guy who was a civil engineer. And one of the things he said to me is he said, civil engineers build everything. It's the foundation for engineering. And he said, everything that you touch in the world has something to do with the civil engineer. We're sitting in this building now. This building is the product of the work of civil engineers and architects. So as he began to explain this to me, it started to open up my mind. And I started to actually like school. And I went to the University of Wisconsin, and like the young man in the video said, I can relate, hardest thing I ever did. And still this day, it ranks as one of the hardest things I ever did. I got into the engineering school, but you know, one of the things they told me when I first started school is they said, at the University of Wisconsin, we don't give people degrees, you earn it. And so one of the first things I learned is, ooh, no extra credit here. You know, they're not gonna give me any extra credit for this, I'm gonna have to learn it. Well, I graduated from the University of Wisconsin in the College of Civil and Environmental Engineering. I was the first African-American female to graduate from the College of Engineering. Now, when I was there, you have to understand, if anybody had first told me that I would have gotten out of there, I was just kind of skeptical. But to graduate on the dean's list as the first African-American female, I was like, wow, that's kind of cool. So I was told when I got out, they said, no one from the University of Wisconsin has ever failed the engineering instruction test, or the EIT. And I think they were telling me because they thought maybe I would fail. And I got a 98. So I was like, oh, this is cool. So I started my career. And I've been around the world. My mother used to always tell me, she would say, it's a big world out there. And I had no idea what she was talking about. I thought she was talking down on 39th. You know, that was a big world. And you know, I had no idea. I traveled to all over the world. I've been to, you know, multiple countries, and I still travel internationally. I have so many stamps in my passport, they're putting extra pages in there now because I've been so many different places. But I want to tell the scholars this tonight, and I'm going to leave you with 7 things that I did personally that contributed to my success, and I hope these things will be helpful to you. The first one is dare to be different. When I was in the projects and I would look out my window, I didn't see too much that I liked. But here's what I knew. I knew that I wanted to be different. I didn't want this for myself. And I see the students that I talked to tonight and the people in this room, they didn't want to be where they are too. They wanted to be different. And every single student that I talked to tonight has a story. They have something that they're going for. I would say go for your goals. Be different. Don't let statistics make you what the statistics say you should be. So what they were saying that I should be, I probably should have been pregnant when I was 15. I had my first baby at 29, thank you, and I was very married. You know, it was, you know, these were the things that were happening in my world. I wanted to be different. So think different. Don't think, you know, I'm gonna follow the crowd. Every single kid in this room is a leader. So think different and put yourself out there for that. The second thing I wanted to talk to you about is going the extra mile. Let me tell you a story. I started my career at US Steel. Some of you may remember Southworks. I worked in the engineering department, and I was an environmental engineer part of the time and a design engineer. Well, one day, the chief engineer was sitting in a room with all of us, and all of the engineers there were kind of jaded, and he puts this project on the table, and he said, yeah, we have to get rid of these boilers in the plant. We have to get alternate heating systems. I need you guys to figure out how we're going to do this. And he handed it to my boss. And I said, wow, that would be a cool project to work on. And my boss came back to his desk, and he's griping about it. Oh, man, I'm going to have to do this, this, this. And I said, can I do it? And I asked him, can I do the project? Well, it ended up saving US Steel about $2 million a day in energy costs, and I got a huge award at the end of the day, but it was my first time developing a program totally on my own for a project such as this. saved the company tons of money. And then they subsequently tore the plant down. So all of this was like a moot point after a while. But it was interesting because one of the things that I learned in my career, I didn't want to sit there and just wait for them to give me an assignment. And some of you probably heard stories about engineers, especially females. I got females in the house. Sometimes they give you the crap assignments. There was a lady I was reading about in USA Today. She invented a software application. She works for Microsoft. And Microsoft took the application from her and gave it to a guy because he said, well, you're not really the person to lead this. Wait, I wrote it. You know, so she's like that. But go the extra mile in your career. Don't sit and wait for people to give you something to do. Step out. Still to this day, even with my clients, I always go the extra mile. Do something different. And that is the sign of the difference between good and great. The third thing I want to tell you is to do what you love. You are looking at a very lucky person here. I get up every day of my life, and I thank God for the job that I do. I can't believe that they pay me to do this because I have so much fun. I'm traveling all around. It's hard work, but I've never been a stranger to hard work. It's easy when you do what you love. So I would say to all of the Pullman scholars, find your passion. Find the thing that makes you want to get up in the morning and do it. And I'll tell you, you'll have a great, great career. Passion means everything right now, and especially in a world where there are so many different options available to you that weren't necessarily available to me. Find your passion. Number 4, compete with yourself. This is my favorite one. I always tell people that I wake up in the morning and I'm trying to be the best Valarie I can be. I'm not trying to compete with anybody else. If you compete with yourself, you'll be better for it. I saw a story with Michael Jordan, and I'm a big Jordan fan. And Michael Jordan was talking one time, and they were asking him why he practiced so much. You know, and if you're Michael Jordan, at a certain point in time in his career, I think they were thinking that he would kind of slow down and stop practicing so much. But Phil Jackson said one day he came into the center where the Bulls practice, and there's Michael Jordan, the only one in there. And he's throwing free throws and, going back and doing three-pointers and everything. And he goes, what are you doing? We got like 4 championships under our belt, and we got this, that, and the other. This is the mark of a champion. Always compete with yourself. Always try to go better. You're competing, no doubt, in a global economy. But you need to compete with yourself and be the best that you can be. Wake up tomorrow and try to be better than you were before. That's one of the keys to my success, is that I always competed with Valarie. I get mad at Valarie when she doesn't do well, and I'm not looking at anybody else. I'm looking at how I can make myself better. Compete with yourself. Here's another one, and this one comes from Scripture. I'm not going to preach, so don't go there. But to whom much is given, much is required. If you're sitting in this room right now, you're the cream of the crop. This is the best that Chicago has to offer. If you're sitting here, there's a lot that's going to be expected of you. So sometimes people think, successful people, it's all about how much you learn from textbooks. Here's the bad news about that. How many ever heard of Bill Gates and Steve Jobs? Bill Gates and Steve Jobs dropped out of school. Don't drop out of school. Just hear the rest of this, right? But these guys were geniuses. And even though they had an innate ability, they had it up here. What they gave to the world, they didn't get from a book. These guys were just geniuses in and of themselves. But that gift is in every one of you as well. You may say, well, I'm no Steve Jobs. I would argue with that. Yes, you are. Because every one of you has the potential for greatness. And all you have to do is open and harness that potential, and you can make it too. But to whom much is given, much is required. There's going to be a lot required of you. There are people in this room, parents and students alike. There are people who are depending on you. There are people who are rooting for you to succeed. The Pullman Foundation, by their gift to you, is rooting for you to succeed. Take advantage of that. And to whom much is given, much is required. You've been given a great opportunity, not only through yourselves, through your families, but through the Pullman Foundation to make a difference. Take advantage of this. This is one of the things I was telling some of the kids as I was networking around. You have a golden opportunity here. Everybody can't go to school today, and that's unfortunate because of the misguided policies from politicians on both sides of the aisle. A lot of kids can't go to school, and it's a national tragedy. You've been given a gift. So to whom much is given, much is required. Make something out of everything that's been given to you. I took my little gift that Pullman Foundation scholarship gave me in 1976, and I have to tell you, when they announced that I was the only Pullman scholar at my graduation at Wendell Phillips High School, and by the way, Pullman wasn't necessarily pouring stuff in there because, you know, there are a lot of kids in Wendell Phillips just simply didn't make it, and that's unfortunate. But I was so honored at my graduation when they announced my name and they said the winner of the only Pullman Foundation scholarship is Valarie King. I fell out, and my mother fell out, and my sister fell out, and we all cried. And it was a moment. It was a moment. But at that time, what I was thinking inside of me, I was thinking, I am going to make them so proud of me. I am going to make something out of this. So to whom much is given, much is required. The next thing, I was reading this book called Good to Great. And if you've not read this book, it's a great book by Jim Collins. It's called Good to Great. And they had a concept in this book called Level 5 leadership. And with Level 5 leadership, they were talking about the qualities that make a good leader. What do you think the most important quality of a good leader was? It wasn't his genius. It wasn't his smarts. It was humility. It was humility. So with all of your getting, you guys are going to do 10 times better than I did because you have so much that's given to you right now. We didn't have the internet when I was going up. We went to something called the library. And how antiquated is that? That is so 90s. And, you know, we went to the library. Oh, that's so 70s. We went to the library for books. You guys can just pick up your iPad and click on something. But they said level 5 leadership is all about humility. So with all of your getting, there's an old saying, it's nice to be important, but it's important to be nice. Level 5 leaderships, think of the people who you love to work for. I love to work for the boss who comes in and says thank you. I love to work for people who congratulate me if I did a good job. I think that humility brings with it strength. And you are going to be required, each one of you is going to be leaders. How many times have you looked at national figures, whether they be politicians or entertainers and things like that, and you say, my God, this guy is arrogant. You know, he's all over himself and everything. The most important quality that you can bring to the table, and I tell you, this is, the employers love this, is humility. It's not that you have to go around debasing yourself, but humility is all about understanding not only yourself, but the other person. We could really use that in the United States right now. We're getting ready to enter into political season, and there's gonna be a lot of mudslinging out there and everything, but we could use a little humility at the end of the day. That's what level 5 leadership is. So be humble at the end of the day. Also, another one that I love that has been a real key to my success is honor your father and mother. Every single one of you is sitting here because a parent or a guardian cared enough about you to get you up in the morning, to feed you, and to make sure that you went to school. Think about the sacrifice, not only that you've made, but think about the sacrifice that your parents have made and honor them. You know, to this day, I tell my mom, she's the best mother in the entire world because she got a little girl up out of the projects at 36th and Federal and made me go to school every single day. When I went to school, I had perfect attendance. Now, there was an ulterior motive. With perfect attendance, you get season passes to the White Sox game. I love the White Sox. So that was a little motive there. But on the other side of the coin, my mother didn't play. She signed our homework at the top of the page and made sure that the teacher know that she looked at my homework. Not that I just did it, but she made sure. you have parents like that too, because behind every successful student is a parent who loves them and care. Honor your father and mother, and the Bible says that your days may be long, but honor your father and mother because they loved you. And these were the people who loved you first, and they helped you to get here. And I'm going to close with this. One of my favorite movies is Apollo 13. And I love that movie for a lot of different reasons. Believe it or not, I wanted to be an astronaut when I was a little girl. In the 60s, I watched all of the astronauts take off. And one of the things in the Apollo 13 movie, and it's one line in there that I'm going to share with you, and I want you to take this away. Failure is not an option. That's one of the things that they said in the movie. And here again, in the scenario where they said that, the astronauts were up into space, and they were, you know, the ship had exploded, and they're trying to figure out how to get back down to Earth. And the commander was trying to figure out, get all of the engineers together to tell them, you know, basically, you got to figure out a way to bring our boys home. And one of the things he said is failure is not an option. And I would say to you tonight, scholars, failure is not an option. Everything is in your hands for your success. The Pullman Foundation, I have to thank them for the wonderful work that they've done over the last 65 years, not only to bring your class, but all of the classes before you, to help us to learn the American dream, or to realize the American dream. I am here because of the Pullman Foundation, my mom, and all of the support structure that I had. This is a wonderful, wonderful organization, and they've given you a great, great gift. Make the best of it, and remember, failure is not an option. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and good evening.